How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about Lucid and we're going to be talking about SOFI. We saw a lot of strength in the market overall. We're also seeing a continuation of this inside of the after hours, but both of these stocks ended up posting red days. So I know there's a lot of questions saying, Dre, what do you see these stocks doing? If the market continues to go on an uptrend, where do you see those levels? And as far as for the downside, if it decides to pull back, where is that at? And that's what I'm going to be sharing inside of this video. Another thing that I want to update you guys on, we had Apple and as well as Amazon that released their earnings inside of the after hours, and we'll talk about that more as well. I won't waste any more time, and just to remind you, if you're new to this channel, we do have timestamps down below inside the description. We go over the charts. We also take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information, which there's a good amount of filings for July the 28th. Let's get into those videos right now. So we're going to take a look at the chart for Lucid. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $18.24, being down 1.03%. On the low, it tested $17.77, and then on the high, testing $19.02. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 16.628 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 14.075 million shares. So we had above average volume, and we also had a pullback in the stock. No surprises with the news that came out yesterday. And now when we take a look at our chart, which is the daily chart, what is very interesting, Lucid is finding support here right around this $17.80 level. We did see a low at $17.77, but we could see that we're hanging around a support area we have shown for the past 2 trading days, so you want to keep that on watch. So if you want to see some momentum out of Lucid, it needs to break above our moving averages here at the 9 EMA, the 50 EMA, as well as the 21. Most preferably, we want to see support holding up above $19. It got to a high of $19.02, but most preferably going into tomorrow, if it's going to be bullish, then you want to have a close above $19.21. So please add that to your notes. If it's able to actually do this, then I could see going into next week, we might be able to get that possible test going somewhere in the $20 range. Most specifically, you'd want to see a move above 2061 and then see a retest of the highs around 2180 and see if it could break out from there. They do have earnings that is coming out on August the 3rd, so that's asking for quite the move. And knowing that we have a gap that needs to be filled to the downside right here around 1723, it's something that we have to keep on close watch. If we have a pullback inside of the market, I can see Lucid wanting to fill in this gap and even wanting to test the bottom of this range at 1638. But make sure you're adding that to your notes as well. But for the most part, the chart does look fairly bearish, but I'll be very curious to see if it could really form a higher low and see if we can get that close above 1921. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for Lucid. So scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at the recent filings for the 28th, we have Trainer Capital Management Inc. that purchased 17,312 shares, and we also have Goldman Sachs Innovate Equity ETF that purchased 55,844 shares. We have Goldman Sachs Market Beta US 1000 Equity ETF that purchased 18,313 shares. Global Strategy Fund that purchased 7,259 shares. Wisdom Tree Trust that purchased 18 shares, and we have the SOFI 50 ETF that purchased 26,064 shares. Good amount of filings for the 28th as far as inflows. Now, when we take a look at the short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 63.11%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 3.83 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 300,000, updated 21 minutes ago, and then for the short ball fee rate, it is at 13.38%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 26th, it was at 63.38, and then for the close of the 27th, being at 63.11. And then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 21.79%, Lucid does continue to have short squeeze potential. So we're going to take a look at the chart for SOFI. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $6.30, being down 2.17%. On the low, it tested $6.09, and then on the high testing $6.56. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 21.751 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days is at 19.678 million shares. So we had above average volume on the day, but we saw a pullback in the stock. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is a daily chart, here's what I want to bring to your attention. We are trading below the 50 EMA, the 9 EMA, but we were able to close right on the 21 EMA at 630. This will be a level that you're going to want to pay a lot of attention to. As far as for the low, we got down to 609. If you remember what I was saying previously, we could get down to testing $6, and there's a good chance we could test that area going into tomorrow. And if we do so, of course, we are looking for a bounce off of this level. If we don't get a bounce off of $6, if we go there, that's why I said we can get down to around 575, and if we have some weakness, we come down to 533. But if we're able to gain some momentum going into tomorrow and being able to get above the 50 EMA at 651, that is a really good sign. We did see a high at 656. Even though we did form a lower low, we had a higher high, and that's something you want to keep note of and could add to some momentum going into tomorrow, especially if the markets are shifting up. So overall, let's see if SOFI can give us a close above 651 going into Friday. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for SOFI. Scrolling down on the page, green rows indicate new positions, while red rows indicate closed positions. So when we take a look at the recent filings for the 28th, we have Trainer Capital Management that purchased 15,695 shares. We have Goldman Sachs Innovate Equity ETF that purchased 85,543 shares. And then we have CWM LLC that purchased 7,304 shares, West Branch Capital LLC that purchased 30 shares, and Alta Wealth Advisors LLC that purchased 84,399 shares, Selective Wealth Management Inc. that purchased 2,250 shares, and Matisse Capital that purchased 101,889 shares, and we have Goldman Sachs Market Beta US 1000 Equity ETF that purchased 22,961 shares, and we also see Stockman Wealth Management with a closed position. But hey, good amount of new positions there. Now, when we take a look at our short interest, the off-exchange short volume ratio is at 41.24%, and then for the off-exchange short volume, it is just over 3.23 million shares. Scrolling down on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 24 minutes ago, and then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 1.54%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume, we can see for the close of the 26th, it is at 48.47, and then for the close of the 27th being at 41.24. So that is a significant decrease right there. And then when we take a look at the short interest percentage of the float being at 19.01%, SOFI does continue to have short squeeze potential. So to give you guys my final recap for SOFI and as well as for Lucid, let's start off with SOFI. So like I said in my previous video, I feel it is very important that it needs to have some price action above the 50 EMA. So going into Friday, I want to see a close above 651. That would set itself up very well going into next week. If we can get that close above 651, that's why I was saying that SOFI can go back to testing right at $6, and if it did break through that level, we can start seeing 575, and if it broke through that level, it can come down to 533. But if we're able to have a close above 651, or even try to form a higher low, since we did close around 630, that would be a good look. Maybe we can get a possible test going to around 676, getting closer to $7. It is very achievable, especially if we see a lot of momentum coming into the market going into tomorrow, which is Friday, and as well as for next week. Of course, it did finish red on the day, but if we see going into tomorrow that the market is strong and SOFI is still not moving, if we have any sort of a pullback, we'll see this stock pulling back to the $6 level like I mentioned. And as far as for Lucid, we know that $19.02 for the high of the day is a very interesting area. We need it to have momentum above $19 so it can make a push back to $20, which is a psychological area. But they did have some bad news that came out inside of the after hours yesterday, which I shared in the previous video. So knowing that it was able to actually hold up support right around 1780, that is not too bad whatsoever. It was 1777 to be exact. But if we can continue to hold on to that area and we get a break above at least 1850, things can get very interesting for this play. If it can't get above 1850 or can't make another move back to $19, that's where I was saying where there's a gap that needs to be filled to the downside, right around the $17.20 range, and you want to add that to your notes. And if we decide to have a significant pullback in the market with the way that Lucid is trading, I can see it coming down into the $16 range, or in the bottom level of the range, it is around $16.38. So add that to your homework. These levels are very crucial so you can find opportunities. But overall for Lucid, you guys know I want to see that stock going back to $20, but we have to be realistic as well. And now as far as for Apple and for Amazon, Apple ended up beating on estimates and as well as for Amazon, and that's why we're seeing a lot of momentum inside of the market. I have been talking about this for quite some time, that these two big tech companies are going to be watched very closely, and there's going to be a lot of anticipation. I also did let you guys know that the market would be seeing quite the run up, especially since Jerome Powell stuck with 75 basis points. He did exactly what the market expected. So this run up that we are seeing, I'm just hoping that you guys are able to make some money off of the moves. I will be doing a video on Triple Q and as well as for SPY, so look out for that one. It will be coming out after this one, and I'll give you guys an update on the levels. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's see if Lucid and SoFi can catch up with the market and start giving us some green days. We'll talk soon.